adult education vocational qualifications, and I would say it's some of our qualifications are seen as a means to an end. So I'd be interested to hear what other people thought about designing qualifications to be engaging. Also, we haven't done any new ones for a while, which obviously makes a difference.
I think for us, it's oh, sorry, Deleth's been very good and put a hand up, so I shall defer to Deleth and put my hand up.
No, you go first. You go first.
Are you sure? Sorry. I think for us, it is a bit of horses for courses. So we do some license to practice qualifications, and they're very focused. They're people who know what they want to do. They're already working in that industry, and there are requirements set by external bodies, the General Pharmaceutical Council, that we have to meet. I think it's been a lot more interesting working on the, so I'm slightly distracted because I've just seen that my dog has brought a carrot in, which is nice. It's been a lot more interesting working on the new reformed qualifications and getting those ready. And I think there is a lot more emphasis on how we can make them engaging and relevant. And I think for me, relevant is perhaps the key word. So that not only are they dealing with the subject matter, but we are able to customize them. And actually, that's where the dreaded AI can make things a bit easier sometimes. So I think it has been horses for courses for us. And with that, I will defer to you, Deleth.
Thank you. We've just gone through the development of the new GCSEs, where we were considering the 4 aspects of MERV in development. And engagement is the one that's hardest to measure and hardest to define. So what's engaging for one learner is not necessarily engaging for another. So it's the one when we were submitting qualifications for approval, you know, we could give more detail around how we'd ensure that something was manageable, valid and reliable. It's pretty subjective, the E. So it's hard. You're trying to make it as, I think relevant is a good word, is a better word in a way, and but that's linked into validity as well, isn't it? So it's a difficult concept to pin down.
I think your point that engagement with learners, they're all so different. So like you say, yes, one assessment method in particular suits another. So particularly at the lower levels, I think all you can do is make it contextualized and as flexible as it can possibly be. But it's I mean, obviously not just at the lower levels, that's great if you can do it all the way through, but you're dealing with such different personalities, different learners, different cohorts. But I suppose the only thing you can really go on is the level and what is the outcome of that qualification supposed to lead to. So some people were talking about the professional qualifications. You've got a kind of a more broad overview of what that cohort might be or what they need to achieve. But I think if you can build in the customization and the contextualization, that should bring things a bit more alive for that particular group. You know, if it's lower level, you know, obviously you're going to use more pictures, more diagrams if you can, if it's that kind of subject. For us, it's automotive. But it's really hard because that's also takes longer to mark, really, quite often, those kind of pieces as well. But anyway, waffling.
One way we did try to think about engagement was in ensuring the other aspects linked to the standards conditions, such as the minimum bias and so forth, minimising bias, that those aspects should end up making the qualifications more engaging for more learners than possible. So if you're not putting any barriers in place and if you've got more representation in your content, so considering the sort of that it's not just accessible to kind of middle-class white people and so forth in terms of context, that it should be more engaging to more people.
So should we move on to question 2 then, which I can't remember what it is now.
Well, sorry, could I just come in on that point before we do?
So yes, of course.
So yeah, Peter Herman UAL. So I suppose our assessment's a little bit different in that they're creative subjects. So a lot of them are very practically oriented. So perhaps it's easier to make those relevant. I don't know, because the students are inherently engaged, and that's why they've chosen those kind of creative subjects. But one of the things that we've tried to do is, through our centres, check with the students that they're engaging, and kind of like embed their feedback. I mean, you can't be too reactive, but to take a kind of finger in the air every now and again, through our engagement with our centres, and just test the feedback from the students. And I think that kind of informs our thinking quite a lot.
Yeah, that's a good point. But then you do have to, as you said, you do have to draw a line, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. And you can't be too reactive, and you can't please everybody. So it is just a kind of a test, you know.
Okay, thank you. Question 2 is, what tensions exist between designing engaging assessments and balancing this with validity, reliability and manageability?
I think we've covered that quite a lot, really, haven't we?
Yeah, is that
What
kind of
we've been
mixed in?
talking
Yeah.
about. Yeah.
Okay. And how could Qualifications Wales support awarding bodies in developing qualifications with the optimum balance between MERV?
Well, you could commission lots of fabulous AI tools and just give it to them. Give it to us. That would be really helpful.
It's that optimum balance thing. What is the optimum balance? I think that's really hard to define. And that is something difficult, I find, in the approval criteria, and a potential hidden hurdle if you're asking for things to have the optimum balance, where it's not clear whether or not you have a view of what that balance should be. So I think, you know, with the GCSEs, we ended up needing to have conversations with you about expectations of, because they're trade-offs. And you can't, maybe it's different in something like a GCSEs too, which is a more sort of defined beast maybe, but can an awarding body by itself come up with an optimum balance without knowing what the regulator is expecting in terms of that balance? Where does it see which of those aspects is favoured? So that's one of the things in the national qualifications for me, you know, it's saying the optimum balance. What if you end up with different awarding bodies defining that differently across the suite? Does that matter? Does the regulator have a view?
I think it goes back to what I said earlier about the outcome, isn't it? Because it's going to be different for different sectors, different cohort profiles. So the regulator's got to be very aware of the different groups that each AO is catering for, or each AO's suite of qualifications is catering for. Yeah. Because they've all got such different purposes.
I do actually think that things like this are really helpful, whether or not, as I said, we're not currently in the process of developing any new qualifications, but it is really useful to have a forum where you can talk to people in other other awarding organisations and hear what other people are doing, because I previously did work at Pearson on GCSEs and A-levels, but I've not worked on those for, almost 10 years now. And so you sort of, you think about the ones you're working on. And so, excuse me, it is really useful to then be able to talk to other people, or even, even other sectors. It might still be like qualifications that people already in the workplace are doing, but completely different qualifications to what we do. So, yeah, I think these kind of opportunities are really, really useful.
Thank you.
Dennis, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, what I would say is I think QW are really good throughout the approval process in terms of close communication, which we can't say for all the other regulators that we speak to. So, I mean, when we are sort of discussing these sort of things and that balance, we have quite close communication with our approval manager and stuff like that. So that's really beneficial.
So I would endorse both what Hannah was saying about it's really good sometimes to actually get people together and talk about consistency and standards and you know, where you're pitching things. And I think it's absolutely possible to do that without losing innovation or competitive edge. And also, you know, what Dennis would say is, I agree with that as well. I find Qualification Wales has been quite refreshing to work with in the kind of engagement that you get at all stages. I think the other thing that I would say that is tricky is everything is fast moving, perhaps more so than I have seen it before. So of course we had coping with the pandemic, and then life changed as a result of that, both for learners and for us. So, you know, we're sitting in a hybrid meeting. We would never have done that in 2019. But learners are more used to that. Learners are more used to online. And we've also seen the massive explosion in mental health and how that is being dealt with and how that is being treated. And I guess if you get your design right, that's where we have the chance to make a difference, really, isn't it? To learners who are still coping with all the challenges that they had to face. And I think if the last few years have shown us anything, I don't know about anybody else, but I now spend all my time both enjoying and struggling with AI and its various opportunities, but challenges as well, is that things just are moving incredibly quickly. And that was why it was great for me to hear right at the beginning of the meeting about Qualification Wales accepting that and wanting to change. Sorry, and wanting to keep qualifications, you know, relevant. So sorry, I think somebody's trying to get a word in. I think I heard. So sorry.